And welcome to the Rob Call Bottomup Show, sponsored by opednews.com, available on Pacifica Radio and iTunes and Stitcher and Progressive Radio Network. And my guest for this show is Stephen Spatz. He's the CEO of BookBaby, a major indie or self-publishing company. He's a former journalist, a marketer for major corporations. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Rob.
Tell us what BookBaby is.
So BookBaby, we're not a publisher. We are a self-publishing services company. We help people get their product into the marketplace. There are a lot of good ways to publish a book, from DIY to traditional publishing. We're sort of in that middle space. We help people take control of their own content and publish it in the way they feel they want to do it. We really help them live out their dreams. And our method of doing that is to really provide everything that a self-published author could possibly need. Anything from, first off, advice on the phone, because we have people here, real live people here, working 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, who can answer any questions. But then once your manuscript is along, we help with their editing. We have a great editing option for you. And by the way, every book should be edited. And hopefully I'll say that at least 5 times during this hour to fulfill that. We help with printing. We're now one of the largest book printers in Southern New Jersey. We actually do the printing in our own facility. We help you create an ebook and distribute it out to about 60 bookstores around the world, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the rest. We help you with cover design if you need it. Having a great looking cover so that you can look every bit as good as Balducci or any of the other famous authors out there is very important. So we help you with that and formatting. And then we also do the print-on-demand distribution so that your book can, be on Amazon, be anywhere, both ebook and print form, and then also available to be picked up by local bookstores if you happen to catch the eye of that buyer at Barnes & Noble or your indie bookstore. We're on both the Ingram and the Baker and Taylor feed. So we really have all the services that a self-published author really needs to go out there and do a great job in getting their book to be the way they want it to look and to read.
Great. And the reason I'm having you on is because there are a huge number of people writing books and publishing books now. And there are a lot of reasons for writing and publishing a book, and we're going to get into that. And I see self-publishing as a bottom-up way of doing things. The traditional approach to publishing is to go beseech a traditional publisher who have really settled down, for the most part, into the 5 big publishers. And then there are some smaller ones around, but it's really hard to do that. And it's almost necessary to be famous or to have a literary agent in order to get published by any traditional publisher. And I
couldn't have said that better myself, by the way. That is all the main reasons why self-publishing has become so popular. You've stated them very well. If you'd like a job here, I'm sure we could find a spot for you.
I've had a really long relationship with your company. Back in the mid-'80s, I was having them reproduce cassettes and vinyl for me. Back when the company was disc makers. So.
Yes, well, it still is disc makers. They're right across the hallway, as a matter of fact. And we still do a lot of CDs for people. And guess what? We're back into making vinyl as well. So
right. Well,
everything goes around.
I released some. I had a recording label back in the '80s, Music Music, and released some vinyl, and it has hung around. And I'm getting all these people who want vinyl copies of the music that we produced back in the 80s. It's crazy.
It's amazing, yeah.
So the thing is, there are thousands of books maybe published by traditional publishers, but is it up to 1 million a year yet? How many books are published each year now?
Our good friends at Amazon, I would love for them to provide a few more stats in that way. We estimate it's somewhere between 800,000 to 1 million books a year now that are self-published, either through Amazon or through other fine companies like Smashwords or Drafted Digital, people like that. Yeah.
Okay. Are they your competition?
In some ways, yes. As I said from the opening, there's no bad way to publish. And there are some people who once we talk to them on the phone, we advocate, you know what, maybe you are better, if you have a very low budget, perhaps you just want to try your work out there. Why don't you go to Smashwords, Mark Coker, one of the real pioneers, he's a friend of our business, and we're a fan of his business. So there are good competitors out there. We offer a more of a hands-on type of hand-holding service. A lot of our customers, they don't know the first thing about self-publishing. They want to spend their time writing their books, getting their story out there, and they want the work to be done by others, by professionals. So that's our place in the market. But you brought up the music business. I mean, given the fact that I've been involved with our music business now the last 15 years, the parallel between the indie musician and the indie author is just striking. I mean, you saw where peer-to-peer sharing and Napster, produced and iTunes produced such disruption in the music industry. Well, the same thing is happening in publishing. Say about 15 years later, than where we are on the music side. And this notion of self-publishing used to have this feeling of vanity publishing and this kind of this thought where it really wasn't a reputable thing. Now, being a self-published author is a badge of courage. Indie authors are proud, loud and proud to say that. And you see even on the industry numbers, I saw one stat of the 500 best-selling authors in 2017, fully 25% of them were indie authors. And that number is growing every single year. And so I think the power of the independent author and what they're bringing into the marketplace in terms of choice and micro genres and things like that is just, it's making it, this is the very best time to be an author, but it's also the very best time to be a reader as well, because of the huge, range of topics you can now get great quality books. Whereas back in the olden days, as you were saying, the traditional publishers and the agents were such gatekeepers that they really kind of tightly controlled what we were seeing.
Okay, well, one more thing about BookBaby. One other thing that you do is you have an annual conference, right?
We do. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, every November we have a conference. We get together the best and the brightest minds in self-publishing. We have people like Joanna Penn coming this year. Terry Whalen is doing some seminars. It's our second year of doing it. First year, we just wanted to try it as an experiment just to see what would happen. And we were thrilled when over 400, self-published or aspiring authors showed up. So we moved it to a larger hotel now. We have a great lineup of people. It's November 2nd through 4th here in Philadelphia at the Old City Sheraton. Beautiful downtown location, just steps away from the Independence Hall and all our museum district. It's going to be a great event. We've kept the price very, very low. We're not making any money on it. We want this to be kind of our give back to the community. So our prices right now, I think our early bird tickets are expiring here pretty soon, but they're $199. And that's for 2.5 days of just world-class programming from 35 different speakers from all around the world that we have brought in. So it's a great value, and people are going to walk away with just, a whole world of new ideas and new thoughts and new strategies of how to get their book out in the marketplace. It's not a BookBaby commercial. I take great pains. This conference is much bigger than BookBaby. This conference is really about the phenomena of self-publishing. So yes, while we're there and you'll see our booth, this is it's not like an Amway convention where we're going to lock the doors and talk about multi-layer marketing. Now this is 2.5 days of really intense discussions, workshops, panels on all the key.
I attended one day of it last.
Yes, I remember that.
And I was very impressed. And I have to say this, even if you have a traditional publisher nowadays, unless you've received a 6-figure or larger advance, which is not very common, they're not going to do much for you either. So I would say that even if you are being published by a traditional publisher, this conference would be very valuable to you as well.
Couldn't agree more. And we're really upping the content this year. I think last year we were a little surprised at the high level of attendees. 2/3 of the people had already published a book, and we're looking for either to do it, in self-publishing or to kind of up their game. So we've upped our game in terms of the presentations. When you have Jane Friedman and a Joanna Penn anchoring both sides of it, those are two of the strongest advocates and smartest women in publishing out there and what they have to share with
I'm not
our
familiar
audience.
with either of them. Who are they and what do they have to share?
So Jane Friedman is from the U.S. and she has been, just a leading advocate for self-publishing and really in a very practical nature. She thoroughly explores the reasons why self-publishing is working, who's doing what. And across the ocean, Joanna Penn from the UK, she is the European counterpart, and she has a wonderful website. I've been interviewed on it, and she's going to talk about how you can really monetize your content and make it as a writer. It's not just about writing and publishing books. You're providing very valuable content that can be used and reused in many different ways. And she's coming over here with a great talk about how really any author who has the time and has the energy to get great content, how they can build an audience and make a living as a writer. That's what she's doing.
And now that I think of it, I do remember Jane Friedman too. I was referred to her website when
Yes.
it was a developing platform because I've been working on that for my book too.
Great.
So let's talk about why people publish books. There are a lot of reasons. I mean, you got fiction, you got nonfiction. What are the reasons that people publish books?
Boy, the first reason is because they can now, because you're guaranteed to get you a book out on the marketplace if you have the will. And this is a relatively new experience. I mean, as little as 15 years ago, if you're not lucky enough to find an agent, lucky enough to latch on to a publisher who's looking for low risk books. I mean, something like the movie franchises now. I mean, how many more comic book movies can there be out there? They're not willing to risk. Well, publishers have been like that for a long, long time. So the simple fact that you can publish a book is what's bringing a lot of people to our doorstep. They have ideas, they have inspirations, but the range of, beyond having the ability to do it, the range of reasons, my gosh, today alone, we probably heard from people who say, I'm doing it for an item on a bucket list. I've always wanted to do a memoir about my dad. Or I have a great cookbook idea. Maybe I have a restaurant and this is going to help support my restaurant. Or I'm a public speaker and I really need to kind of use this book as a calling card. And all the way down to I have a great story. I think I could be the next E.L. James or other popular writers. So it's just an amazing range of reasons, why. But the common denominator really is, number one, they can do it. And number two, they just have such passion and zeal for this project. And we understand that. We know that this is more than just a little passing fancy of, maybe I'll just put a book out. No, they're putting their heart and their soul into it. And we feel deeply responsible to help guide them along the way so that they can be very proud of this achievement. And, it's really quite rewarding at the end of the day, knowing that, today we're going to probably deliver 100 projects today, and each one of them is somewhere around the world. They've sweated on it for months or years, perhaps, more likely years. And they finally get to open up those box of books and say, my God, I did it. Look at this. And it's really heartwarming to be part of that. It may sound a little corny, but frankly, I think a lot of the reason that people love working here is also because they're really helping deliver such dreams that our authors have.
Tell me about the dreams.
Well, they could be big and small, right? It could be, look, Mom, I'm on Amazon now. I would say that happened more 10 years ago, where it was, the phenomenon, oh my God, my book could be, right beside John Grisham. And that was a neat thing. And people could show that off. Now they're a little bit more demanding. Hey, look, Mom, I'm on Amazon. I am also number 3 on the list of best-selling books about ducks living in Oregon. So now they're looking for a little bit more, and we have to up our game, and we have to evolve along with the expectations of the authors. We can't. The only thing so we guarantee all of our products, right? We guarantee the editing is going to be great. We guarantee the cover design, if you let us do that, will be fabulous. We guarantee the printing will be beautiful. The ebook file will be fantastic. We guarantee your distribution will be in place. The only thing we can't guarantee is if your book is going to sell. We give you lots of tips. We have consultative marketing services. But at the end of the day, you've got to be the person to really help sell that. So that's something that we're trying to make sure that part of an author's dream includes, I have the dream and the drive and the motivation to want to sell and to market that book, because they're always going to be their best marketer. They're always going to be the one who is best suited to sell their book.
Now, when you talk about selling a book now, you're not necessarily talking about print. You're talking about digital books. How's that work now? What are the numbers or percentages?
So, a lot of people think that the ebook bloom has withered. I would say that is true for traditional published authors. And when you see some results from websites such as authorearnings.com, I don't know if you're familiar with that site, but that's the one run by, he's called Data Guy. He's a traditional publishing analyst who goes with a sort of anonymous name, not to piss off his employers, I think, but it's authorearnings.com. And you see the sheer number of independent authors, being able to sell their ebooks at 99 cents versus a traditional publisher who's still trying to sell it for $6.99 or $9.99 or a much higher price. Ebooks, I think, are still a good 35 to 40% of the market. They're not being counted well because I say, the people like BookScan and Nielsen aren't really doing a very good job of capturing data from indie or self-published authors. So I think that you see 35 to 40% of the revenue is still now in ebooks. It's never going to replace print books. There's just too many people who love the look and the feel. And I look at the background of your library. I see that you are firmly in that camp. Yeah. I'm a hybrid reader. If I'm going to the beach and I don't want to get sand in my Kindle, I'll take I'll go to a used bookstore and grab a paperback. But when I'm in an airplane or I'm at the doctor's office or wherever, I whip out my iPhone and away we go. But ebooks are still a great way for people to dip their toe in the water. They can do it very, it's very efficient, very price effective. You still need a great cover. You still need great content. People can convert their files themselves. We do it for them to kind of make sure that the file is going to render perfectly in all the devices. And we do some formatting now to make it look nice in all the devices. Ebooks have come a long ways in terms of what you can do on them and what is now easily achievable on a Kindle or even a Nook device or an iPad.
Okay. Now, one of the reasons I asked you on is because I call the show the Bottom-Up Show, and I think that self-publishing is the bottom-up way of publishing.
Yes.
And so to me, bottom-up is grassroots, it's crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, it's collective.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how self-publishing is bottom-up compared to traditional publishing.
Well, as a matter of fact, one of the main speakers last year at our show was one of the Margaret Atwood, I believe is her name, and she was from Kickstarter, and talked about how many of her projects are being funded through Kickstarter and other crowdfunding, Indiegogo, and other entities like that. And we see a lot of these projects coming to us. They're a lot of them are just so beautiful. They're photography books. I mean, it's not just a person's story. Some of these are really pieces of art, and you're seeing that a community is coming together. What an author needs to do to ensure success for their book, we think they need to establish their reading community, not after the book is out, but while they're writing it, while they're researching the book, while they're halfway through and maybe sharing chapters with their email list or with their followers on Facebook or Twitter. It really does take a community, I think, to produce a great book. And I think that's at the core of the success of a great deal of the BookBaby authors. I mean, they use that kind of grassroots movement for help, for motivation, for inspiration. When they realize, it's been the end of a long day, I work a 9-to-5 job, and it's 8 o'clock, and I can either binge watch a TV show or write another 1,000 words. I think it's that community that can help inspire them to go out there and to pursue that worthy cause. So really, I think the community feeling is starts very early in the writing process, And obviously, after the book is out, it can propel it and give it momentum on its own, almost a flywheel effect, where they can tell a friend and another friend can tell a friend, and where there's no more effective, marketing than word of mouth. And to me, this is like the ultimate word of mouth.
And I would say that this really doesn't just apply to self-published authors anymore, because even the people who are published by traditional publishers who are not the bestseller people, they're going to have to do all this themselves too. And I don't think the speaker you're talking about is Margaret Atwood. She's a famous novelist.
Oh, I got the name. The Atwood is her maybe it's Kay Atwood. You're right. I was looking at some material this morning. You're right. I think not her name, but I think it was Kay Atwood. Now as I remember. But anyway.
But the fact is that I think that while I think it's much more common for self-published authors to go with something like Indiegogo, and I did a separate show on how to do Indiegogo with one of the coaches at Indiegogo, John Trigonis, who coaches authors and artists and movie people. But I think it's something that just about anybody who's an author needs, if they're not, John Grisham or Margaret Atwood.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. The James Pattersons and people like that, they're the ones who are marshaling still the huge amount of attention by the marketers, within those traditional publishers. And again, they're getting so risk adverse now. They just want to ink deals with books that are going to be guaranteed bestsellers, or practically. So the established names, certainly are still having all these wonderful perks. But if you're not within that realm of the top 100 or 150 or so writers, you're absolutely right. They're having to really do so much of the work themselves and get still a fraction of the royalties that a self-published author can get.
Okay, so we're going to continue in a minute. I just need to do a brief station ID.
Great.
This is the Rob Call Bottomup Show, sponsored by opednews.com, available on Pacifica Radio, Progressive Radio Network, iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. And I'm going to pause for a second, because when I'm editing this for radio, the pause helps me find this spot. And my guest for this show is Stephen Spatz. He's the CEO of BookBaby, a major indie or self-publishing company. He's a former journalist and a marketer for major companies. And my next question for you, Steve, is you've said that you have to teach authors how to become publishers. What do you mean by that?
Well, most of the people that we encounter they have a story in their head. They have beautiful photographs. They have artwork, and that's it. They have the inspiration, but they really don't have any of the production thoughts in mind. They really have no idea of how the process really works, and certainly they know little about the distribution. So working with BookBaby is more than just us taking care of your book. We really do go out of our way to educate people about the process, why editing is important, why you need to have the right resolution for your images that you supply us, why book formatting will make your book sell better, why you should look at your metadata. There's so much to this. When we first started BookBaby, I let the marketers loose on a tagline, and they came to me with self-publishing made easy. And I said, you know what? That's absolutely wrong. There's nothing easy about self-publishing. We can help it, we can help you, we can make it easier, but there's a lot of steps involved with self-publishing. And so we quickly shelved that tagline and realized that, part of our responsibility to the authors is to, not just do it, but teach them about the whole process. And if they're able to do more of this work themselves, good for you. I mean, we're an a la carte service. They can use us for as much or as little as they want. But an educated buyer, as they say, is a great buyer. And once we, teach them a lot about the whole self-publishing process, then they really appreciate the value that we bring to bear for them. And they feel more confident, they trust us more, and frankly, it seems that they're more eager to do their book with us after we've actually taught them kind of what our secret sauce is, because they realize that, Number one, they don't want to do it themselves. Number two, they trust us to do it. So guess what? They can spend all their time either writing or marketing their books. And that's the way it should be. We're to help them, take it from that manuscript, get it to the marketplace, let them expend their energies at each side of the spectrum.
Well, and from what I understand, you're helping them to create the product that is marketable.
Yes.
So you're helping them get it edited, getting it formatted, getting the cover. There's still marketing. I mean, they still can't just depend on you alone to do the marketing, can they?
No, they absolutely can't. I mean, what the extent we go is again, as I was saying, everything is guaranteed. I can't guarantee that their book is going to sell, but I do offer I offer 4 marketing consultative things. Again, I keep the price very low so self-published authors can take advantage of it. I make no money on it whatsoever, but I just want to make sure that they at least have the basics about how to do a book launch, how to really optimize Amazon, how to go about getting quality reviews. Yes, you can buy them, and they're, Kirkus and Blue Ink reviews are great, but there's also an opportunity for them to get great reviews out there. And then working social media the right way, having a Twitter account and saying, buy my book, that's not the way you're going to sell books. There's a right way and a wrong way to handle social media. What social media is more appropriate to your book? There's business book, LinkedIn maybe. If it's a cookbook, maybe Pinterest. We teach them about those sorts of things. And then we have a blog that is just, stuffed with incredible array of articles from a lot of people we've invited in to share their ideas and their thoughts. And we really provide a lot of the basics for people to study and then to really do it themselves. It's not the actual pure marketing of the book. It's got to be on the shoulders of the author because it's their passion, I think. It's really going, their passion and persistence is going to be the telling tale of this.
Yeah, I know another big part of it is getting publicity for it, making people aware of it. And I know people who spend $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 on programs that help them to get PR, to hire publicists, to teach them how to do it, to help them create the different elements in the marketing of it as well. So there's a real lot to it. So what are the most important things self-publishing authors need to learn and understand?
Patience. Again, in a contrast to our music business, when a musician records a song, they cannot wait to get it out there, out in the marketplace. They rush to perform it on stage. They want us to press vinyl or to do a CD, so we offer rush services and things like that. On the book side, if I ever offer a rush service, I'm gonna tell my second in command to kick me squarely in the rear end because nothing about a book should be rushed. If you think of a book launch, it's not an event. You are launching a product like a ship. A ship isn't going to only float for the next 90 days. A ship is going to float for a long time. So everything about the entire book process, it takes time to really do it right. Anytime someone says, "Oh, I've got a book signing on November 1st, can you get it done?" No, we have said no to a lot of projects because we know that we can't deliver, and if we possibly could, the customer is not going to be happy with the result. So we've probably turned down a ton of business over the years, but I'm not a bit sorry about it. So I think patience is something they really need to know. And
what is the time frame if somebody brings you a finished manuscript that, let's say it's already been edited. Let's say that they've edited it.
Excellent. All right, so let's just say, for the sake of, let's say it's July 1, all right, in this hypothetical. They walk into BookBaby and say, "I have a manuscript." Well, within 2 weeks, we will have an ebook proof of their files to look at. Within 3 weeks, we would have, total. Within 3 weeks, we'd have cover designs ready for them and book formats. I would say comfortably, any project from a simple, black and white ink on paper, digest size to a copy book, within 5 to 6 weeks, your production will be finished. You will be on Amazon with an ebook. You'll be on Barnes & Noble and Amazon with your print on demand. You should work, of course, a pre-sale type of process so that you can kind of, build demand up, get the excitement going, get more people involved to the actual launch date. But once you have the finished product, it can move surprisingly fast. But people should look at their proofs very carefully. We've had people who rushed it through, and we can't control it. Once I give you a proof of the cover, and then you say yes, well, you've accepted it. There've been, unfortunately, too many times people said, "Oh, I forgot the ISBN," or "I forgot that there was another author to it," and so we had to kind of turn around. So really 4 to 6 weeks is a typical time for us to really do all of the work, and that's cover design, that's helping them with their metadata, that's setting them up with their own page on our site called Bookshop, where they can sell their books, sell direct to reader, which is something we definitely emphasize these days because you'll get a lot higher royalty. But the more time you allow for your launch, the better off you're going to be in the long run.
And what about how long does it take to get a book edited if they've written it and it still needs editing?
We have a tremendous editing service. It's the same service used by 2 of the big 5 publishers, and the same group also does most of the long form journalism done in this country now. It takes between 7 to 10 days for them to review the average book. We do a line edit and a copy edit. The 2 are really kind of 2 separate products. One is more of the simple punctuation and structure. The other one looks at more of the thoughts, and the whole concepts. Looks at it on a kind of a paragraph. Do they make sense? But between 7 to 10 days, you'll get your finished product back, pages marked up with 4 or 5 pages of editor's notes about what they felt about the book, where they see it could be strengthened, does it need an additional edit, that type of thing. It's not a collaborative process. It's not a real extensive back and forth. It's but it's priced very well for self-published authors to really get a great product before they launch the book.
What's it cost?
It's based on a per page count. The typical editing project here is about probably $1,500, and that compares pretty favorably to a lot of the others. Editing is not a cheap thing. I mean, you're having a real live person go through word by word or character by character. So it's an investment, but we know that investment is really going to pay off for an author in the long run, and it's competitively priced against all the other providers. And unfortunately, Create Space ended all of their author services this July. They had a crew of folks in South Carolina, and then they were outsourcing a lot of their jobs overseas, but they ended that in July, and we've had a lot of calls and inquiries about our service as a result of it. And we think it's just an essential part of processing your book. It just has to be edited. Okay, that's the 3rd time I've said that, so I'm doing good.
So my question was, what do people need to know? What are the most important things self-publishing authors need to learn and understand? You talked about patience. What else?
They need to understand how important their platform is, how important it is for them to really start promoting their book early in the process. And when I mean platform and promote, it's gather your tribe, gather your community, gather the people who are your supporters, who are you're going to let in early in the process, who can become your evangelical fans. They're your super fans, your super readers, so that they're the ones who are going to tell their book club or 20 of their closest friends about that. You can never start that too early. So, thinking about the platform, I think, is tremendously important. And I guess the third thing.
I totally agree. What is it? Explain what a platform is.
Well, a platform could be different things for different authors, right? But it's really a place, to me, where this is sort of the center point from whence you are kind of showing off your brand, showcasing your brand. It could be an incredibly beautiful website. It could be a blog. It might be a Facebook page if you're doing a certain type of book. It might be a Twitter feed, but that sounds kind of limiting. But really, it's the repository of really who you are and what you stand for as a writer. It should include not only information about your products and your reading. I think it should be personal as well. It's a place where people can come to understand you, not just as a writer, but as a person, as a member of society, as a member of a community. So I guess my definition of it is a bit broader than a lot of other folks, and we're trying to get our readers to kind of think about this. We deal with such a variety of authors coming to us. It's hard to ever say one size fits all. So we try to appeal to them in the most broad terms and let them kind of interpret what that means to them and to their literary efforts.
Do you provide author platform software for your clients?
We provide a selling page. I wouldn't now for some of our authors, that's a fine platform, and they can eventually they'll be able to hang their blog off of it. They'll be able to they're able to put reviews on there now. They can do a lot more than an author bio. They can put a lot more about their books. It's a single selling page where they can transact directly to their readers, which again, coming from the music business, we're all for direct to fan, direct to reader type of commerce. That one-to-one relationship, yeah, it cuts out the middleman. I'm sorry, Amazon. Sorry, Barnes & Noble. But the author gets a lot more money when they do it that way. And they also able to establish a rapport with their readers and get feedback. I mean, this is also the first time in literary history that a reader has a chance to connect directly with authors on a daily basis. Used to be there was so many layers in between of publicists and publishers and agents and whatever, and bookstore buyers and bookstore owners. Now authors and readers can talk together and collaborate, and an author can, if they want to, they can get a lot of feedback about their characters, about those story arcs and things like that. So a platform can really function as that gathering point, the place where people can come together and to share, to transact, to learn.
And I think that a platform is the center of not just an author, but an artist or
Yes.
a consultant or anybody who's got anything where they're selling themselves and their work. A platform includes a bio, it includes credits and accolades, it includes
Yes.
experience. I think it should include a blog. I know you've spoken about that you
Yep.
think fiction writers should be blogging. And I don't know that we're going to have time to get into that. But okay, so platform is absolutely essential.
Right.
I've got a book coming out this fall, Bottomup, Tapping the Power of the Connection Revolution. And I've read whole books on platforms, a couple of, and I've been building one. I have the advantage of having my own content management software because I publish opednews.com, which reaches a couple 100,000 unique people. So I have an okay platform. I mean, a great platform has millions of people following them on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. And it's hard to get there, but
Sure, and building a platform, that's a job that is never going to end. You're always going to add to it and build on it and improve upon it and edit it and add things and take things out. Yeah, it's a never-ending job, a mountain without a top, as they would say.
But you got to start it. You got to start.
Oh, you do.
And I think you really have to have the basic social media things set up and be working them. I mean, and there are people who make a living doing social media for authors and for other people. So you can hire people to do it,
No question.
And but if you don't have the money for that, you got to learn how to do all that stuff. And I guess that's all the parts that come under being a publisher.
It does. And one thing we stress, and again, with the exuberance of writers coming in, their book is done, they can't wait to get it out there. We caution people about, don't burn yourself out. Don't try to do too much at once. Master one of the social medias. Find out what's working with Twitter. Great. Now you have kind of a use TweetDeck or whatever tools, and then go on Facebook. How can you really optimize that? So don't try to spread yourself too thin. Again, it's a book launch. It's a ship. It's going to be sailing there for quite a while, and it's not just one book. It's several books. And what you've learned doing book number 1, 2, 3, you'll profit when you do book number 4. You keep learning and building as you can, but don't think you have to do everything all at once. It is one step along the journey to master social media or to know how often you should blog, or should you try to guest blog on other people's blogs? See what works for you. And some people love social media, some people don't. And you really have to feel comfortable and like doing it to get success. Because again, I see way too many authors just screaming on Twitter, buy my book, please buy my book. Oh, I pray, please buy your book. Please buy my book. That's not going to help you.
Right. So anything else in terms of the most important things self-publishing authors need to learn besides patience and platform?
So I'm going to add one more P, professionalism, right? I don't care if you've written the greatest book on earth. You could have written the Bible. You could have written, any classic book. But if you have a bad cover, in this age of little tiny pixels on a screen that you can flip by in a millisecond, you're never going to sell your book. If you don't get it edited and have gross errors on the first page, people are going to put your book down. You've got to bring professionalism into this market so that you can compare yourself with the big guys. We've had a motto here in our music business and now in our publishing business is we're trying to help the little guys look big. And the best way for you to do that is to adapt all the best practices of the great traditionally published authors. Would you think that, would James Michener have gone out in the marketplace without his book being edited? Without somebody looking at the cover and making sure the one for Chesapeake or the one for, any of his South Pacific. I mean, he had real pros doing this work. And that's what an author needs to do now. And it's within reach. I mean, the pricing, not just us here at BookBaby, but there are millions of providers around the world that can do these kinds of editing services or cover design or formatting. So I think those are the three P's: patience, platform, professionalism. That's what a self-published author needs to have to go into the marketplace and have a good chance of success.
So I can go to Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and hire somebody to do a cover for me for $20, $50. I'm sure it's a lot more than that. What's the difference?
Well, now you might find a gem at Fiverr. You might find somebody who is, really trying to build up their artist portfolio. A lot of times we find that, they're based on they have about 200 templates and they just customize it with the words and a little bit. And it really doesn't have that pop. I think working with a cover artist is an important thing. And when somebody comes to us for cover design, we send them an extensive survey and questionnaire, ranging from, tell us about the mood of the book. Tell us about what color do you use. When you think of that book, what color do you think it's going to be? Obviously, some genres have some accepted formulas and standards, which we certainly adhere to. We ask them to send us examples of covers they like. They can even send us artwork in. And we put together, I think some beautiful covers. Matter of fact, when we started a cover design service, we've been doing it for the music business for a long time. And we had an acceptance rate of about 85%. People would have us do CD work and record jackets, and 85% of the time they would say, "Oh my God, you nailed it on the first pass. Thumbs up, let's go." And I said, if we could ever get to 85% on books, I'd be thrilled. So right out of the gate, we hired some professional book designers, and they taught our staff. Right out of the gate, we're at 90%. 90% of the time, we do a book cover from somebody, and it takes between 7 to 10 working days, and we send a proof out, and 90% of the time, the author just says, "Oh my God, you nailed it. You captured it." And the other 10%, we work back and forth with proofs and things like that until they're delighted with it. So it's just an essential part of the process.
Cool. What are common author misconceptions and misunderstandings?
So
you know what? Let me do a station ID first.
Okay.
Got to do that. This is the Rob Call Bottomup Show, available on Pacifica Radio, Progressive Radio Network, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and more. My guest for this show is Stephen Spatz. He's the CEO of BookBaby, which is a major indie or self-publishing company, a company that I've actually done business with for over 30 years, going back to cassettes and LPs and what have you. So the question is, what are common misconceptions and misunderstandings that self-publishing people have?
I think it starts with the actual product itself, the actual book, the actual words. It's difficult to have to call up a client and say, I'm sorry, Mr. Jones, but your book has so many errors in it that we've seen, you need to go back and edit it. People think that having their sister-in-law who has an English degree qualifies as a professional book editor. And it's a professional job, and that really requires that investment. So some of the misconception is, that maybe I can skimp on editing. No, you really can't. It just has to be done. And like I say, we probably have turned down book projects just because people get so exasperated with us that they don't think they need editing. Now, we'll publish the book if they want to, but they're not going to be happy with it. I think the other thing is involved with it is it does take time to get a foothold in the marketplace, even in the distribution channels. Just having your book appear on Amazon is not going to mean you're going to get sales at Amazon. There's a lot of work you can do behind the scenes to set yourself up for success. These things change all the time. We're constantly studying it and providing tips and help for people. Our blog, as I say, is a font of information. And what we're really focusing in on now is helping our authors understand the mechanics of what a pre-sale is, where you put your book up on Amazon, you have a release date of anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks later, and you're able to promote it, to get excitement, and to build up, not the rankings, because Amazon doesn't do it that way, but the more people you have come to your page, they don't have to buy it. The more people who come to your page, Amazon's algorithms are looking at that traffic. They care more about traffic during this period than sales. You get people coming to your page day after day after day. Not only will Amazon stock more of your print-on-demand books in their inventory, basically pre-buy them, but you'll also be much higher up in the searches. If somebody says, go back to my duck book, because you see probably on my bookcase there are pictures of ducks. I used to own ducks. So if somebody is searching for a book about ducks and you had people coming to your page, you're going to be much higher in on those search rates. So there's a lot of insider tips and ways to, again, not manipulate the system, because we don't believe in gaming it and buying reviews and buying those types of things. No, these are legitimate tactics that an author can do to really plan out. And so when that day arrives on the book launch, boom, they've got a lot of sales that'll show up on some of the other ratings. Barnes & Noble tabulate it differently. Some of the other, in Kobo, they'll actually accumulate all the sales made during the pre-sale period and count that one day. Amazon doesn't do that. They look at the sales in that time period. They're more structured. But it's this awareness of getting your distribution plan in place, not just relying on Amazon. I guess that would be another misconception, that Amazon is the end all and be all. No question, you've got to be on Amazon. But if you're only on Amazon, that's 35% of the world that you're not going to be able to be in, because 65% of worldwide book sales now are done through Amazon. Amazon's number one in the US and in the UK and many countries around the world, but they're number 3 in Germany. They're way down the list in some other countries where we're seeing a lot of traffic. That's why we have a very wide established distribution net of, we're in Gardner's, we're in Sienda, we're in East Central and Southeast Asia. We're in Kobo, which is big in Canada, Australia, and Japan. So it's important to have this, a distribution plan outside of Amazon. I think otherwise you're missing out on a lot of potential sales.
Okay. Any other misunderstandings in terms of producing the book or taking the book from manuscript to finished product?
I think that the amount of time they need to spend marketing is always a surprise. And sometimes it's an unpleasant surprise. I mean, I think if you ask a lot of authors, they would say, boy, I'd love to just be able to write and have somebody else market it. And, you can pay a publicist. And if the book is good, it will sell, and that will certainly help. But it's no guarantee. So I think just the sheer amount of time and effort that you need to be your own cheerleader, promoter, salesman, agent, it takes a lot out. But it's part of the self-publishing equation. If you want to find success in the marketplace, I don't know of any self-published author really who didn't spend a considerable amount of time doing that. And for the most part, it really does work. I've got to share one example of this. before we end. It's a client by the name of Carl Johan Erland. He's a Swedish psychologist. He came to BookBaby many years ago. We were just doing ebooks at that time. And he wrote a book about helping you get your child to go to sleep. And the name of the book is The Rabbit Wants You to Go to Sleep. It's very cute. He did the illustrations. He started as an ebook in Swedish. He kept calling us about every other week. What can I do? My sales aren't very good. So we said, why don't you get it translated into other languages, because it's a short book. He did that. Sales were okay. Why don't you get it done in a print version? So at that time, we weren't doing printed books. He went to CreateSpace. And we kept saying, why don't you give it away on Facebook? Try to get some activity. So he gave away tens and thousands of downloads. And we kept saying, why don't you write some more books to get more of a stable inventory? He said, no, I believe in this one. I want to put the effort in this one. And sure enough, about 3 years ago, a Facebook group about parenting happened to be, there was a reporter for the UK Guardian newspaper who was in that group, and must have had a really rotten kid. And so she downloaded the book, read it to her child, and it worked. And she said, hallelujah. And she wrote a glowing article about it in the paper. It got picked up by 350 other newspapers around the world. And we watched his sales go from, maybe he was selling $1,000, $1,100 a month. And it went the proverbial hockey stick, where he was getting 6-digit checks from us each and every week for a long period of time. It was the first self-published book to ever hit.
Dream, or one of the dreams.
Both New York Times and Amazon in the same week. This is back in 2014, I think it was now. And he eventually, signed a 7-digit advance contract with a traditional publisher to do some more books. But you know what? It took a lot of time. It took such persistence. And, he knew nothing about this, but he just kept saying, I believe in this. I'm going to keep flogging this. And it worked for him.
The Rabbit Wants You to Go to Sleep. A
yes.
$1 bookseller. Incredible. So what are the advantages of self-publishing over traditional publishing, and what are the disadvantages?
Well, we certainly have talked about how the gatekeepers, of traditional publishers, they've, God knows how many books have never been published or seen by the public that have been because an editor had a bad day, decided not to read it. So the access. Really, to me, it boils down to two other things, though. You get to control it, right? It's your project. You're the contractor. You can subcontract out the cover design. You can subcontract out the editing. But, this is your baby, your project. If you don't like the way the cover looks, it's your call. It's going to go as far or as not far, really, as you take it. So you get the control. Of course, the big reason a lot of people who are successful in traditional publishing, who are interested now in self-publishing, is obviously the royalty payments for self-published authors are much sweeter than what you can find in a traditional publishing deal. Traditional publishers it's a 12 to 20% royalty. If you're a big enough name, I think you can command 20% now, but I think those deals are pretty rare. If you sell your ebook on Amazon, you're going to get 70% of the net selling price, or of the gross selling price, back to you. So a book that is $10, just to use easy math, you're going to get $7 of back to you. And when you use a company like BookBaby, we collect the money for you, and we give you 100% of the net sales. We don't keep a commission. We're your accountant. We collect all the money, but we send it all back to you because you've earned it. It's your perspiration. That's how we feel. That same $10 book, if it was a traditional published book, you get $2, right? Now on print books, it's a little bit more complex. Nobody makes money on print on demand. It's a way to get your book out there in the marketplace. But even the royalties for that on traditional.
Let's not go through the details of the numbers, though. But it's better if you're doing self-publishing in terms of the royalties on the print.
Absolutely, it is.
What are some of the other besides the money? And the ability to have full control? I know that some people, their publisher shows them a cover and says, "This is your cover, and
yep.
This is your title," and the author says, "Oh my God, what are you doing to me?"
Yes.
And if the publisher is a traditional publisher, they have the final say in that. And
right.
Self-publishing, you have the final say.
It's out of your hands. That's right. So here's one more. Here's a big one. Speed to the marketplace. So again, let's just have that July 1, my edited manuscript, okay? Self-publishing, you're out in the marketplace in 6 to 8 weeks maximum, right? even if you go through rounds of revisions. We're talking to traditional published authors now who their book was finished 2 years ago, and it's just now about to come into the marketplace. To get in the machine of traditional publishing, it takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months before it even sees the light of day out in the marketplace. It takes so long for it to go through the huge machinery. Whereas in that same 18 to 24 months, hell, you could have 2 or 3 books up. You could spend 6 months writing it, spend two more months having it self-published. At that time, you're still back writing. So you can produce a lot more content in a faster period of time when you self-publish.
What about hybrid publishing? Talk about that.
A lot of, I can't share their names, but we have several high-profile authors who write traditionally in one genre and who work with us in a completely different genre and self-publish. And we hear them say, God, I wish I could get my contracts from my other side over here. It is a great way. If you write a variety of different type of books, we advocate for it, because you get a taste of both sides of publishing. And again, there's one big pro of traditional publishing, which I didn't mention. If you want to get in a bookstore, the best way to do that is to go with a traditional publisher, because they're the ones who have the salespeople. They do have the marketing channels. They do know the buyers. Again, unfortunately, we're living in an age where bookstores are not doing well. Indies are still doing well. Barnes and Noble and chains like that are not doing as well. So I don't know how important that should be. The dream of being in a bookstore should be in a writer's mentality. 80% of the books now sold in the U.S. are bought online. So that's a staggering number.
What's the difference between self-publishing and hybrid publishing?
So self-publishing is you're doing all your books by self-publishing. Hybrid is saying, okay, I'm going to do my poetry books through a company like BookBaby, but I'm going to do my business books through the Drexel Press or the Princeton Press. I'm going to work with a traditional publisher on some of my books and go through their process.
That's not my understanding of hybrid.
All right, that's how we define it.
Okay, my understanding is hybrid publishing. It's a publisher that handles some of the distribution, and it looks like a traditional book, but you give them some money towards the production of the product. Like
a Greenleaf, they're a great hybrid publisher in that definition. Yes. Now, and we, I guess the terms we've been sort of working with is people who have sort of their feet in both sides of the publishing side.
Okay, they're buy publishers. All right. And what are some liabilities of self-publishing, Annie?
Well, it's all on you, right? You've got to put in investment up front. It's your money. You've got to pay for the editing. You've got to pay for the books. You've got to pay for the distribution. So you're actually putting a financial burden on yourself to go out there and do it. But if you believe in it, the return is going to be fabulous. And there's emotional return as well. I mean, this is for some people, this is a lucrative hobby. I mean, they really love it. They've retired from the Air Force or from business or whatever, and now they're writing books about their experience. And so it's probably not as expensive if you played golf at a high-end country club every day, and maybe you make more friends out of it. But for some people, it can be a financial toll.
All right, and you've said that not everybody who's self-publishing is a BookBaby client. Who is and who isn't?
So there are a lot of great DIY, do-it-yourself type of outlets, beginning with Amazon, with KDP, with Kindle Direct Publishing and CreateSpace. People who have the wherewithal to get their edited manuscript and just go to Amazon, if that's what they're happy with, it can be a very low-cost proposition. Smashwords and Drafted Digital are 2 ebook distributors who, again, you can go into them for free, but they have very limited distribution. Then there are other companies like Smashword, like Lulu and Blurb and people like that. Really, all the ones I mentioned though are very good eggs. They're very good companies, reputable, fair. You do have to watch out. There are some scammy services. I'm not gonna mention them, but the first thing a person should do is look for reviews. Go to Trustpilot. Go to Better Business Bureau. Make sure that the self-publishing.
1 minute left. Finish. What? You got 1 minute.
Yes, you should absolutely make sure that the service you choose is highly reputable that stands behind their product and guarantees everything.
Wait, so the thing that you're saying though is that BookBaby puts all the pieces together. It's not for do-it-yourself people who are trying to save nickels and dollars.
That's right. We have all the services that people want. If they really want to invest smartly into their book, we have everything from editing, design, distribution, printing. It's all kind of a one-stop shopping experience for us. That's our claim to fame in the self-publishing market is.
All right, and we've got a wrap. This has been the Rob Call Bottomup Show, sponsored by opednews.com. My guest for the show has been Stephen Spatz. He's the CEO of BookBaby, one of the major self-publishing companies. Thanks so much, Steve.
Rob, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.